Welcome back to another edition of Post Media's Ottawa Senators panel. I'm Ken Warren with Don Brennan and Bruce Garriock. Guys, the Senators have just completed a really lengthy homestand of 5 games. They went 3-2. Pretty good result considering the expectations are pretty low for this team. When we look back at the homestand, Don, what stands out for you?
Well, there's always going to be a surprising result if they win a game. So they won 3 of them. That's, I think, a major accomplishment. Beating the Montreal Canadiens was big with a house full of Montreal Canadiens fans, and beating the Dallas Stars and the Los Angeles Kings. I mean, a couple of big, heavy teams that they held their own with. So I think that if you just look at the overall picture, that's got to be a big plus.
One of the things that I've thought about this team in the first couple of weeks of the season, Ken, is I thought they'd have trouble scoring goals. And yes, they only scored 1 goal against the Bruins on Tuesday night in the last game of that homestand. But to me, what surprised me the most is the offense, and the offense from the defense. You know, Thomas Chabot on Tuesday night against the Bruins scored the 10th goal from the blue line this season. To me, that's shocking, especially when they gave up a guy like Erik Karlsson in a trade, and we almost got through this without mentioning him. But to me, that to me is the most shocking thing, or not shocking, but surprising thing I've seen is that they won 3 games in this homestand. They had a great homestand, is great, but the offense they've gotten from the defense has, to me, been surprising.
Well, you're right about that. I mean, the game against the Bruins was the first time this year they've failed to score at least 3 goals, which I think people thought, how are they going to compete with goal scoring? I agree with you. And beyond Chabot, I mean, you've had Max Lajoie, and we'll get into him in a minute, with 4 goals still leading the team. So I think generally a pretty impressive, surprising result on 3-2. Now they move on to the road, and things are going to get a little tougher. It seems like they've been at home forever. What are they going to do in the road? This is a tough stretch. They're playing Colorado, who's red hot. Then they go in to play Vegas, obviously defending Stanley Cup finalists, and then off to Arizona, who seems like they might be turning it around. What do you expect is going to happen here, Don?
I expect the Colorado game will be the toughest test for them. I mean, they've been able to have a little bit of success at home matching lines and putting the deep pairings out that they want. They did a really good job against the Patrice Bergeron line last night, 5-on-5. Didn't give them anything. Pasternak scored once when all 5 of those guys, the checking crew, were on the bench. But I think now going into Colorado, they won't have last change, and they're facing another really good line in Mikko Rantanen, Nate McKinnon, and Gabriel Landeskog. So that's going to be a real big tough test for them on the first night.
And there's been a debate, Don, about what is the best line in the league, and people have talked about that as being one of the best lines in the league right now, next to that Bergeron line that they faced on Tuesday night against the Bruins. It's interesting to me in that, you know, this starts a real tough stretch for them. In the next 22 days, I think they're going to start. I think they play 11 games in the next 11 or 12 games in the next 22 days. So that's a lot of hockey, and they've basically been home here for 18 days. They've played 5 games. They haven't played a whole lot. They've had a lot of practice time. All of a sudden, the practice time is going out the window, and we'll see how Guy Boucher manages all of this, because I think sometimes Boucher has got caught out coaching himself, and I think last night the matchup should have been head-on-head, your best line against your best line, and I'd like to see him go into Colorado and use his top center against their top line and not try to use a checking line and play strength against strength, because I didn't like that against the Bruins at all.
Okay, speaking of top center, Matt Duchene's going into Colorado. Here's the big trade of last year, guys. This is coming to a head. It's the first time Matt Duchene's gone back to Colorado. Are we expecting boos for him? He wanted out of Colorado. I think he's been a really good guy in Ottawa in terms of, you know, saying the right things. I think he's been very productive after the slow start. I think he without a point in 7 games when he came after the trade, but really basically being a point-a-game guy since. This has got to be it's always difficult going back your first game back. I think, you know, you talk about top centers going into an environment. This is going to be a tough game, isn't it, for Matt Duchene?
Well, it is, and I disagree with what Bruce said, because I thought that matchup last night worked perfectly. I don't know what he's talking about. Matt Duchene, you know what? He didn't have a very good game last night, and I've got to think that he's thinking ahead to that game. He's going back to Colorado, where he asked out, and the team got better when he left. So I expect there'll be a lot of boos. I expect that he's going to put a lot of pressure on himself to do well. And maybe that's what he needs to get kickstarted, because frankly, we haven't had enough of from Matt Duchene this year. He's got 1 goal. He's not the dominant player that you would expect him to be down the middle of a team that's pretty thin down the middle. And he's just got to produce. And he's looking for a new contract. He's got to start scoring.
Well, you're right, Don, and I'll agree with you on that. I just think that, I think you have to play your top players in situations where they can be top players, and that's what they have the opportunity to do tomorrow night in Colorado, or pardon me, on Friday night in Colorado. And I think that Don's right about the fact that Matt Duchene has scored 1 goal in the first 7 or 8 games of the season here. I think they played 8. I think that they need more out of him, and the perfect stage for him to do that would be in Denver against the Avalanche, his first trip home.
And how about this, guys? How about a little bit of Matt Duchene playing with Mark Stone? When they do play, we saw it in overtime when they beat Montreal, the two of them together, they're their 2 best forwards. Maybe once in a while, throw that out for a change and ruffle the feathers of the opposition coach and say, okay, maybe you change your defensive pairings on the other end. So that's just an option. I mean, while we're talking about lineup questions, the 11-7 thing didn't work the other night because of injuries, so they went 12-6. What does Guy Boucher do here with Cody Ceci? Because it looks like he's going to be ready to come back. The team fared pretty well with him, so if he comes back and you have to make a roster move, who might come out on defense?
Well, it's interesting. They had a 3-game winning streak going with the 11-7 formation, and they had to go back to 6 defensemen against the Bruins. I think you go back to the 7 defenseman when Cody Ceci's ready, and you work him in. That seems to have worked. Why change it? I mean, if you have the bodies, you should run with that, I think, and give each guy a little bit less ice time, and run with your guys that are going good, but go back to 11-7.
Oh, I think you're right, Don. You have to go back to 11-7, because one of the things that Guy Boucher is a creature of habit. And I'll guarantee you, there was no part of him last night that wanted to go 12-6. Or pardon me, on Tuesday night against Boston. There was no part of him that wanted to go 12-6. They'd won 3 straight. He was forced to go 12-6 because Ben Harper and Cody Ceci weren't healthy enough to play. I think he's going to have that issue going into Colorado because we don't know whether Mark Borowiecki is going to be suspended for his elbow, and I'm not going to attempt to say on the Boston player. I'm not going to attempt to say his name because I will not say it properly. But I think that the situation now is. If they're going to go, he's going to want to go 11-7 because they lost. I just don't know if he's going to have that ability this week.
Okay, if you go 11-7, that presents this. The guy who's come out of here up and down a little bit from Belleville and has established himself, maybe not permanently here, but as a player, is Christian Jaros. And again, he was in that matchup situation with Mark Borowiecki against the top line, and I thought he held his own. I think this guy looks like he may be in the equation here.
I thought he played a very good game last night. You listen to Guy Boucher talk, and we listen to him talk a lot, and he likes to talk a lot. But I've never really heard him rave about a player as much as he raved about Christian Jaros yesterday morning. He just likes everything about this guy, and it doesn't work with the contracts. Christian Jaros is on a 2-way deal, and it's the easy thing to do to send him back. Right. I can't see them sending him back. I think they're going to find a way to keep this kid up in Ottawa.
Look, he's been great. And one of the things that he mentioned, Guy Boucher mentioned to you yesterday, Don, that I didn't realize about Jaros was he's got great speed. Because if he has great speed, you don't get to see him use it often. But he has been solid to play against, and he's the one thing I really like about him is his poise. And I think he's shown tremendous poise.
Well, I think that's a confidence thing with young defensemen is okay, hey, the first thing they want to do is not make a mistake, take care of their own end. When they get maybe playing a little bit more and realizing I can try a little bit more and expand what I can do, they will try a few things. And we saw a couple of times where he led the rush and carried it out. And I think if he plays more, we'll see a little bit more of that. We've seen that in Max Lajoie as time is going on. Just, one more lineup question here. Craig Anderson has pretty much run the table here in net, other than the one game that Condon played in Boston. Boston. When does Mike Condon play? And is this a situation, you know, the schedule is being conducive to having one guy run with it. Are they going to need Mike Condon here at some point to carry, not carry them, but to give a break to Anderson?
To contribute, yeah, they will. I mean, Anderson is 37 years old. You're not going to take him out of the net, I can't imagine, for the Colorado game. He's back against his former team, so he'll play that one. And they play LA after that?
It's Vegas and then
Vegas, sorry.
And then Phoenix.
Yeah, I can see them saving Condon for the weakest opponent of that group, and that'll be the Arizona Coyotes on Tuesday night.
Yeah, I think it's probably Arizona Tuesday night. You look at because then they come home, play a home and home against Buffalo. So they're going to want to have Craig Anderson rested going into a divisional game. I would say if you circled it on your calendar, it'll be Arizona on Tuesday night.
So it's going to be an interesting take on where they're going here because they've been at home for so long. The road trip is, you know, maybe some of this good stuff that's happened will end, you know, without the lineup matching that Boucher can do. A little bit more of a challenge here. So we're going to look forward to seeing how the Senators can manage on the road. With Don Brennan and Bruce Garrick, I'm Ken Warren. Thanks for tuning in.